This is Kate Trajny from DATAcated. We're in New York City at the RevX event from Domino Data Lab. I am with the Shawn Rogers, finally, from BARC. I'm really excited to talk to you today. So first, tell my audience, what is it that you do at BARC?
I am the CEO of BARC in the US, and I'm also in charge of our AI and data science practice. So that's part of the reason I'm here today. So the content of this program covers that.
Great, yeah, and speaking of content, so we both sat through several of the same sessions at this RevX event. What are your thoughts so far?
You know, I find every time I come to New York for a program like this, you get some of the greatest experts, and especially this one is focused on finance. And so we've got people from all sorts of areas of the financial world. We've had a couple of sessions today. One, I think I shared with a friend that was the person on stage was so casually brilliant. It was a little bit surprising to me. And so, yeah, I like these types of programs and the content that comes from.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think the fact that we're still talking about the same problems is also not unique, I guess, when we go to a lot of events and you'll hear the fact that, if you want Gen AI, if you want AI, you want a shiny new thing, you still have to focus on the data and the governance. Why do you think we're still facing this issue?
I think anything innovative requires the hard work to be done. And some of the hard work isn't always as glamorous as you'd like it to be. So things like data quality, data governance, AI governance, putting frameworks around those things, that's not as exciting as showing off your new AI agent or your new project. And I think sometimes the cart gets in front of the horse on these topics. And that's why you and I see the same topics coming up at these programs. So I think the smart companies are focused on foundational competencies in order to innovate and do fun things. And data's the oxygen for AI. It's not going to breathe if you don't have great data.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to admit that it requires hard work, right? Yeah. One of the speakers today said that it's almost like the chef that says, we're going to cook this complicated meal, and then, oh, there it is.
Yep.
Like, okay, so where did the ingredients come from, and how did this all come together? So do you think that people are just not being transparent about all the hard work that actually has to take place, and that's why we're still facing this issue? Yeah,
I mean, we've lived through a few of these really highly disruptive cycles, and I think the bright, shiny toy of it tends to get in the way of the hard work of it. And a lot of companies want to skip one to get to the other. And I find that the companies that skip the foundational things are usually the ones that are failing a little faster and getting a little frustrated. So it's interesting that some of these hard work items, I think AI is becoming very much a forcing factor for companies to pump their brakes a little and go, is our data good enough for AI? Do we have enough data for AI? Can we train models properly? Do we have responsible AI policies and procedures in place in our organization? Do we have the right things? At BARC, we look at a handful. There's 7 of them, and I won't be able to remember them off the top of my head, but they're all very deep project areas. And we ask people, how far are you on each of these? And we find that right around 20% have completely deployed and operationalized all these mature steps. And those are the ones that are doing really cool things. And they've jumped way past AI assistants and chatbots, so.
There's something beyond that? Oh my God.
There are, yeah.
Another session that I was a part of, it brought up the people factor, right? So you mentioned processes, technology, but there's also people. And an audience member asked the question, how long did this take you from knowing you have a problem to unveiling the solution? And he was like, it took about 11 months, but the first 9 months was just getting the right people on board.
Right.
So how do we address that? How do we make people do the things?
I sat through a session a little while ago on the hierarchy of a great AI and ML organization, and it's a village. It's a village for sure. And it starts, I think, differently than that last cycle of big data and Hadoop a long time ago. The board didn't care much about that. The board cares about AI. And so this is very top down. And so executive leadership and sponsorship is keenly important. And having the right parts of the organization involved become kind of non-negotiable if you want to do this stuff. And it strikes people as odd when they look at the organization and go, why does legal need to be? Or why is compliance here? Or why is the office of the CFO value. And these are components of being an AI-driven company, is bringing that community, that village together to do this kind of cool stuff.
Great. Oh, last question for you. Get your crystal ball out if you have one. All right. If we sat down here next year, what do you think we'll be talking about?
Oh, there are a lot of things. We'll talk about how most of the end users you and I are speaking to have multiple models in their environment, sometimes as many as a dozen, small ones, large ones, medium ones, specialty or domain language models. I think we'll still, unfortunately, be talking about data quality and foundational technology, but I think those numbers will be shrinking and contracting as more companies kind of get on the train to move forward. I think that we will be seeing some truly innovative things. You talked about people, and I talked about orgs. I think the other thing, I heard this quote this last week, that people aren't going to lose their jobs to AI. People are going to lose their jobs to people who use AI. Yep. And there's a subtle difference there, but I think we'll start hearing a little bit more about how it's lifting people up in the org so that they don't have to do all this tactical stuff and they get to do cooler things. And I think we're going to hear a little bit more about how organizations are disrupting their workforce with this.
I agree. I think it's like when people said that computers are going to take over our jobs. No, people who learn how to use computers are going to take over those jobs. So awesome. Well, Shawn, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you. It was fun to be here.
Yes, and you'll see us online.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Cheers.